I'm Adam.
I'm Keith, and this is Unfiltered Founders, and we're almost out of beer.
We are. Time for another one.
All right, welcome back, Unfiltered Founders. I'm Keith.
And I'm Adam.
Cheers.
Cheers.
All right, so this episode, we're talking about failure.
What'd you call me?
And it's one of those things, right? And there's a lot of cliches that exist around failure or losing, right? You don't lose, you learn. And I think we're going to obviously want to reinforce that a lot of those cliches are true. The cliches exist for a reason, right? Most certainly. But, we've been talking and working through and really I think the purpose of why we exist, right, as hatchandground.com and the purpose of even what we're doing here on Unfiltered Founders, right, is to give people the tools and resources and the encouragement, right, to push their way through the difficulty that is starting a business and staying in business. And one of the most difficult things is when you lose, when you fail.
Yeah, I've talked about this several times, but it's in framing, right? So a series of small failures or losses isn't a failure.
Correct.
Right? And, anybody who's either played a competitive sport or rooted for a team, wins and losses. Losses are losses. It's not a failure. If your team, I wanted to talk about this, so I am. So I heard an interview with Joe Thomas, who played for Cleveland Browns. 11 seasons. He's in the Hall of Fame.
Yep.
His first season, the team went 10-6. That's
a good season for the Browns.
It's a good season for the Browns. That was his only winning season.
All right. Yep.
All right. Only winning season. He was on the Browns when they went 15-1. He was on the Browns. 1-15.
Yeah.
And then 0-16.
Yep.
Right. So you have to go to work every day, and you're losing, but you're not failing.
Correct.
Right? And it's about how you frame it, how you react to those situations, how you pick yourself up, you look at the other people in the room or in the mirror, it's just you in the room, and you say, I can do this.
Yep.
And I'm going to make a plan. I'm going to, all the things that we talk about in our community. I'm going to make a plan. I'm going to set these things. I'm going to get accountability. Whatever it is that led to that loss, you start building towards a win.
Yeah.
And then start building up wins, and then you won't see it as failure.
Well, I think that maybe and we didn't necessarily go in saying that we were going to frame it this way, but I think that might be the way to frame it, right? There's a difference between a loss and a failure, right? And I think failure comes when you lose and you do nothing different. You do nothing to learn from it. Legitimately, you do nothing to change. You don't allow the loss or the mistake to improve you, right? You don't take that moment to let it improve you, to make a change, to then have it not happen again. And it may still happen again, in fairness, right? You're actually inevitably, you're going to have another loss. You're going to have another mistake.
About doing the same thing over and over.
It's insanity, right? I mean,
there you go.
But I do think that, our goal here is to allow people to not be part of that large percentage of people that go into business and fail. Not lose, but fail, right? They go out of business. That's our goal, is to prepare them and give them the tools and resources to go and do that. And I think a large part of that, you have to talk about the fact that you're going to have mistakes. You're going to make mistakes. No matter how much planning that we talk to you about and that you do and all that other stuff, you're going to make mistakes. You're going to have losses. But you cannot, right, sit there and do nothing when that occurs. If you do nothing, then you should expect to fail. You should. If you have that mistake or you have that loss and you do nothing, then you should expect to fail. However, right, if you take that as part of the process, as part of the growing, right, it will convert itself into a win.
Yeah, and if you understand at the beginning that there's going to be wins and losses, there's going to be strikeouts, there's going to be missed shots, there's going to be shots you don't take, right? It in the course of building anything, right, whether it's a business or a relationship, you're going to have wins and losses, and it's reacting to them the right way and saying, all right, I made a mistake, and owning it. I made a mistake. I own that. I'm looking at what happened there, why it happened, and figuring out what we do next. Or it may be something you can't avoid.
Correct.
Right? There are mistakes that you make that are unavoidable. And it's, okay, if this happens again, how am I better prepared in that situation?
Yeah, and I think that, I think that it's just a matter of maintaining the mental discipline, right, to not get wrapped up in the mistakes. It's really easy as humans to kind of go down the negative rabbit hole, right?
Yeah, pessimism is so easy.
So easy, right? But, then all of a sudden, a single day mistake turns into a multi-day mistake, turns into a multi-week mistake, and that's, again, we go, right? You have to pick yourself up. You have to brush yourself off. And again, that kind of cliche attitude. I mean, it really, really, really is as simple as that, right? If you're not willing to pick yourself up and brush yourself off, then, you're going to keep going down a really dangerous path where it's only going to lead to more mistakes. However, right, if you're willing to own it and I think have accountability, and that's probably one of the biggest things as an entrepreneur, there is nobody else that's going to be accountable for it. You have to be willing to say, hey, it was me. Right. I did it. And, even if I didn't do it and my employee did it, guess what? You did it. Right. And you have to be able to own that, take responsibility for it, and then learn and ultimately make your business better, make yourself better.
Yeah. And when you think about those types of situations and accepting that accountability, you're the thirsty person in the desert. Like, as an entrepreneur, you're a starving person. You're a thirsty person. And you can look at this glass as half empty if you want to, but if you haven't had a drink, you better be looking at this glass at half full. Right? And as an entrepreneur, it's always half full. It's always half full. This glass is half full. This glass is half full. And why do I say this is half full? Because he's going to drink.
Hold on.
Right? Like, it just, that's the way that it works. You can always add, right? However much is there, you can always add. You can build. And if your structure has your glass 3/4 full, you want it all the way full. Like, you want it there as an entrepreneur. Again, as you're building, you want to get to that end goal where your cup is, your cup runneth over, right? I was going to say it's overflowing. Your cup runneth over. God fucking damn it. It runneth. Anyway,
I digress.
Optimism.
Yes. So I think, one of my favorite sayings, right, is FITFO, which is figure it the fuck out. And so I talk a lot about the FITFO method. I use the FITFO method in a lot of what I do, right? And I think that that's the other thing, right? To your point, there's going to be controllables and uncontrollables, right? Controllables, take accountability, learn from it, right? The whole deal, and pick yourself up and all the things we just talked about. Let's talk a little bit about the uncontrollables. In the uncontrollables, right, I can't stress enough that you just can't sweat that stuff. You can't, right? We're sitting here right now, and God bless the Pipers for hosting us, and Porters and everything else. And
they let us come here all the time.
Yeah.
And look, when people will let you take over their restaurant or their bar for a little while, like, you got to be like, all right, if you have some noise, like, you just let it happen. And also, pretty sure they charge us for these drinks. So
God bless them.
As loud as you need.
But they're having an uncontrollable, right now, as we talk
Yeah.
about, right? With a piece of equipment, and they're gonna have to figure it the fuck out, right? Or else it becomes a loss, or else it becomes a mistake, right? And so you have to have that. I think one of the the keys of entrepreneurial spirit, right? To me, one of the most important things that I preach is figure it the fuck out. You
It's
can't.
really the first, like, the thing that you lead with.
Yeah.
And I had a conversation with Theo Ratliff from the X76ers.
Yep.
And by the way, I'm not a tall person, but if you want to feel short, stand next to him. But he asked me about Clear, another business that we've worked together on. He said, "What do you do for Clear?" And I said, "Well, anything. Like, if there's a problem, I'm the guy you come to for a solution. I might not be able to solve the problem, but I will get you to the place you need to be to get it fixed." And that's that FITFO mentality.
Yep.
It's I see this as a challenge, right? The difference between framing it as a problem and a challenge. A challenge is something that you can succeed at.
Yep.
A problem can only be fixed with a solution, right?
Yep.
And I don't care what the solution is. I don't care if there's not a solution. Maybe there's a different way to do it completely that alleviates that problem, right? So think about it as a challenge. You put it in front of yourself. I have this challenge. I have to figure out all the different ways. Spitball it.
Yep.
Put it on the big board. How are we going to eat, drink, and be merry?
Yep.
Right? And then throw it out. Like, ask people that aren't associated with your business, because maybe different thinking can help.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's different thinking, and I just think more than anything, I think you have to understand that there's just going to be, to your point, challenges and problems and a variety of things. And if we're so geared towards helping people avoid failure, right? And failure means failure, right? You're out of business, right? Or you didn't get to start the business. That's what failure is. Everything else is just part of the process. And it can either lead towards failure or it can lead ultimately towards success. And having that attitude ingrained in you, deep in you, that it's just part of it, right? That it's part of it and it's okay, and I can figure out a solution, is just so huge. It's just so huge. It's the FITFO method. You've heard me. I preach it and preach it and preach it and preach it and preach it. Because what are you waiting for? What are you waiting for? So to your point, if I don't know the solution, then I'm going to go fucking find somebody that does know the solution, right? I'm going to ask for help. I'm going to go do what I need to do. But at the end of the day, I can't sit here and tread water and wait. You know what happens? You can only tread water for so long. You can only tread water for so long, right? And then you absolutely will sink. You absolutely will drown. You absolutely will fail. And so you have to have that mentality of, fuck that. I'm going to figure it the fuck out. I'm going to solve it. I'm going to find a path forward.
Whatever I have to do, anything I have to do. So I never called it FITFO until I met you, right? And then it became, all right, this makes a lot of sense. Like, it really makes a lot of sense. What we're building in the Hash and Ground community is a resource for FITFO.
Yeah.
Right? So there are a ton of things in our community that will help people figure it the fuck out.
Yeah.
And if that's not working for you, there's individual one-on-one coaching, there's group coaching, there's all kinds of tools that we offer that will help get you to the place that you need to be, so that you don't give up, so that you don't fail, so that you can get past a loss or a difficulty or a problem and find solutions, find a path forward, and beat the challenge.
Yeah, and I just think that, any successful person is going to be able to point to a litany of mistakes. They just are, right? Any successful person, all the way up to the richest people that we have in the world right now, there's just a litany of mistakes that they made along the way. The difference is they didn't allow those mistakes to turn into failures. And I think that's the thing that we really want to emphasize, right? Is as you look at whatever business it is you want to start, or you look at buying a business, you just can't allow it. And we're seeing that right here, right now, in real time. You can't allow, right, a little blip to just turn into a failure.
You can't. You can't. You need to push it forward.
Yep.
And you need to find that path to success, and really it is that mindset. It is that drive. Like we talked about this a lot. Like if you have the passion, right? Even if you're a naturally pessimistic person, if you have passion and you have drive, you can focus that in turning a loss into a win.
Yep.
Right? And making that something that you can like scream to the masses. Like, look, we went down, and that was what changed everything.
Yeah.
Right? And that becomes a story that you can tell about how you built your business.
So this would not be unfiltered if we did not share a little bit. So I can go first, or you can go first. But
I'll let you go first.
So I think we do. We have to talk about at least a failure, right? That's existed in terms of the business world. And I'll say outright, I'm a serial entrepreneur. As many businesses as I've started, right? 50% work and 50% do not outright. I'm running a little bit better than the national average, in fairness, right? But 50% do take off, and 50% do not. And there's a lot that goes into which ones you stick with, which ones that you don't. Most certainly, I think that I'm coming off some recent failure for me where the business is still existing, right? But I'm not within that business. It wasn't necessarily that I was in it, but I was running it, every aspect of it. And that was hard. That was hard. But man, have I learned a lot. Right? I learned a lot coming out of that. And it's only going to breed future success. And that was working with partners. That was, going into an industry that I didn't know. Right? I don't look back at it with regrets by any way, shape, or form.
And having been a part of that, I know the successes that happened in the time that we were working together with that.
Yep.
And I know that what we're doing right now, doesn't happen without that failure.
Oh, I have multiple businesses right now, actually, that are going in.
Out of that. Yeah, there are multiple businesses that you've got from that. And for me, I do talk about writing a lot, but there's a story about theater guys like Dr. Seuss. 50-something rejections.
Yep.
Right? This person, 50-something, like all the rejections. Everybody gets rejections. When I started in the industry, right, the first manuscript I sent to an editor got picked up. That editor left the publisher to be an agent. I started working with them as an agent. They sold my next 4 manuscripts. 0 failures, right? 0 losses.
Yep.
And then it starts happening. Things are getting rejected. Well, what happened? What's different? They were buying everything I wrote before. Like, so you get into this mindset. Doesn't mean I stopped writing. It means I looked at what I was writing, and I looked at the market, and I said, am I writing something that's right for the market now? What was right for the market in 2010 is not right for the market in 2020.
Different world. Yep.
Right? It's the draft day, right? We just had draft day.
Yep.
I just watched the movie. It's a different world that we lived in 5 seconds ago.
100%.
Right?
Yep.
And you need to adapt to the world that exists now, not the world that existed when you had that last success. Otherwise, maybe it doesn't work. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. But you need to know what's going on right now. You need to adapt for that situation.
Yeah. So I think, that's, if we have some key lessons coming out of this segment, right? Adapt, and FITFO. you have to have the FITFO attitude. That's probably my number one piece of advice that I have for any entrepreneur. You got to just figure it the fuck out. You have to. You have to be willing to show up every single day. And when you encounter that problem, it can't be a woe is me. There is nobody coming to help you that day,
Yeah.
right? Now you can call for help, right? But you have to at least, even that has to be the part of the solution. You have to know who to call. You have to be able to calm yourself, compose yourself, and then put yourself on a path towards problem solving. But it can't be that, oh, I'm just going to tread and tread and tread and tread and tread. That only leads to one place.
One of the best ways to get to that place is to like, subscribe, and follow us.
Hatchingground.com. Cheers, everybody.
Cheers.
We're gonna be unfiltered
Yeah.
founders, so
Yes.
fucking get used to it.